Oh boy, this is probably going to be a very unpopular video, but I have to make it anyways. Hey guys, what is going on? Welcome back out to the channel. My name is Ando, and did you know it's been 2 months since Dune Awakening has released? I think we need to talk about some things. This was going to be a little bit more of an informal video, less storytelling and more just me kind of airing out some things that I think need to be fixed, or just talking about data. I'll have a separate video about the things that I think need to be fixed, but I think there's some glaring issues and something that's probably somewhat problematic, but I will at the very end give a little glimmer of hope, and hopefully that is enough. Okay, like I said in the intro, this is going to be a little bit more informal, but I do have a general agenda that I do want us to follow. So first, we're here on Steam, which is where I downloaded this game. Again, I just want to point out, like, this has a very solid base of game, right? Like, I think that Dune Awakening is very fun. I've enjoyed it. There's a reason why I make videos for it, and I don't want them to be all doom and gloom. And I know that I'm a YouTuber, right? And YouTubers make things for clicks, and they get paid for being negative. Of course, everyone thinks that the game is dying, and at all times, that this is just all things, and it's all earned. I'm not trying to deflect any of that stuff. I try to be a little bit different than the standard YouTube guy, but again, I'm not going to ignore facts. And one thing that I do want to point out is, with all the reviews, we are looking really good. 52,000 reviews at a 74%. It's nothing. There's better games out there for sure. There are also worse games out there. And so all-time reviews looks pretty positive. However, in the last 30 days, only 56% of them are positive. Now, I think there's a few reasons for that, and I don't want to think that it's just the game. If you guys have been living under a rock, you guys probably won't know this, but if you guys have paid any attention to the game recently, there's been a series of exploits and a series of, the duping and bugs and things like that. Obviously, those garner negative reviews, and usually people are very loud and boisterous about those reviews. So it is not surprising within the last 30 days, especially when kind of all these things hit at once, where, the exploits, the duping, all those things, that this is also happening right now, where 56% of the reviews in the last 30 days are positive. That is not a good number. So I will say, obviously, some of that comes down to, again, the state of the game. I will also say that there's probably a solid portion of those that started out as positive, because the game starts out, in my opinion, on a very positive note. The story is good. There's a lot to do. The engagement is good. Finding guilds is fun. There's a lot of storytelling inside of the game, even when you're just doing small little camps and stuff like that early on. But it's the end game. The end game is where it feels like, hey, what am I supposed to do? Why are these things that way? And again, I have a video where I want to talk a little bit more about that and how we can fix that. But right now, if you were to take the current state of the end game, it's just not great. And I mean, just flat out, it's not great. The next thing I want to look at is charts. I know, it is super exciting. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about charts. So again, I want to just show you guys what this is. Thanks to our friends on SteamDB for putting this all together. But this goes through, you can just see, right? If we were any sort of stockbroker or anything like that, like, this would not be a good sign. So to act like it would be something that is really good for the game, I think is disingenuous. But again, I don't want to throw and start, pressing the emergency button quite yet. But I just want to take a few looks at some numbers here, right? At a release, we had 142,000 players online as the average, right? And again, this is the average. It's how, or I should say, that number is the amount of players that are on concurrently. So again, this is to be expected. Every game, when it comes out, starts to spread, word of mouth, especially if it's good. Which, again, if we've kind of already established, Dune Awakening was a lot of fun early on. You actually see within the next week that, it had actually increased by quite a bit, about 40,000. So it was clearly doing well within those first few weeks. And then something with Dune is that it peaks on Sundays. I think some of that has to do with the DD schedule and where the Coriolis kind of storm goes in. But you can kind of, again, see like the peaks are getting smaller and they are not getting as high as they used to. So players are not playing as much concurrently. There's a few explanations for that, right? I think one, again, new games garner more attention. Again, also new games have more story that you are still playing, right? When you're still running through the campaign, I know many people can attest, it's easy to log 4 or 5 hours a night and just be going and having a really, really fun time. As you start to get into the end game, if you log in an hour or 2 hours, maybe you can farm all the aluminum that you want. You can kind of get the bodies that you need to go, and then you kind of use your refinery or whatever the case is, get it going, and then log off. And if every player went from 4 to 5 hours to 1 to 2 hours, that obviously leads it to where concurrently there's not going to be as many people overlapping as if people were playing 4 to 5 hours every single night. I think the next thing we should look at is just a little bit of, we see the graph, but I want to talk a little bit more of the numbers and percentage wise. So let's go on over to Excel. Okay, this is a little Excel that I made, but again, I just wanted to we saw a graph. What does it mean? So I took those peaks, basically the Sundays where we had saw those high amount of concurrent players, took those numbers, and then I just wanted to see what are we seeing weekly average decrease by, and then just the total change. So you can see, again, this first week, we saw about a 33% increase, pretty awesome. And then from that, big number, we did decrease a little bit, 8%. Again, you deal with that just from a, variance standpoint. But then the following weeks, we see really consistent, almost, somewhere averaging around 20%, with this latest weekend being 22%. If we're looking at this, we're pretty tightly grouped here, like 20%. This one's even probably a little bit more. Again, variance will, help shape this. But even if you think about this from now, we're not even seeing this shallow out. We are losing 20% per week. That's concurrent players, right? There's some problems with analyzing this data from concurrent base rather than just maybe who all logged in. But this is the numbers that I was presented, so this is the only thing that I kind of have to go with. But then I also wanted to look at the total change, right? Taking our base number here of when it was released, that first week, again, we still see the total percent change of 33%. And then, that small dip was actually now from the beginning. We're still above at 22% from the start. And then that third week is when we start to go negative, right? We're now below where we started from on release, and you can see all the way down here. This is a tough number, honestly, to read. We have lost 75. We've lost 3/4 of the original player base that we once had. We've seen this even within our own guild. We started on a server called Linares. We were playing Saturday night, and we just thought for data and for funds, to see who was still on Linares, it had 0 people left on it. I guess now is the time that now that we've kind of made everything nice, doom and gloom, I want to give a little bit of hope for the next thing. Don't want to sound disingenuous. I have never once played Conan Exiles, but if you guys have watched any of my previous videos, you'll know that I've never really even played anything in this survival, open world, whatever you want to call it, game or, genre. So I want to be very clear that I don't have any experience with what Conan Exiles is currently experiencing. I don't know, what all they have going for them, and they might be in a worse shape than we are. They might be begging for more content, whatever the case is. But I do want to just point out, right, at release, they had 49,000. And I think a large part of that is due to IP, right? You're getting really good IP with Dune. But, their most recent data, they're in the, they have like a few peaks here, 20,000, right? But for the most part of this year, it looks like they're, sub 10,000 games. And this is a Funcom game. So games can survive with less than, what we're currently running with is, 30 some odd thousand. And that's pretty close to when they release. And that was kind of a, maybe not a peak, but it was definitely pretty good. With that being said, like, games can still survive, but it just really depends on how thriving you want this game to be. Just trying to point out that like games in this genre by this company can still survive. They're not going to like pull the plug on Dune Awakening. We're losing 20% of our player base and it's only been 2 months. I know there's a patch coming out soon. I don't think that's going to be the patch that people are waiting on. So again, check out my video that will be releasing sometime within the next week about where we can actually improve this game. I think I have some pretty good ideas on what is causing player frustration, as well as what can actually reinvigorate the player base. So thanks for watching this one, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one.